Order in the court! Order in the court! As we talk about these next couple of chapters, actually quite a few, chapters 23, 24, and 25, and 26, we're going to talk a lot about how Paul stands trial among multiple people. In the beginning, we talk about Paul before the Sanhedrin. Later, it's Paul before Felix, Paul before a man named Festus, and then Paul before King Agrippa. And so to give you a little bit of backstory of what happens in these chapters, in chapter 23, Paul is before the Sanhedrin, and he gets to stir the pot and cause a little bit of chaos as he speaks to the Sanhedrin, and he addresses both the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and gets these two groups really talking and getting them riled up a little bit. Later, after this talk with the Sanhedrin, there are these 40 men who make an oath that they are going to kill Paul. Paul, who has been through so much in his life, through being thrown out of towns, being whipped, being stoned, we now have Paul with this group of men who say that they will not eat and they will not drink until Paul is killed. And it is through Paul's connections that he speaks to a young boy who goes and talks to a centurion, and after talking to that centurion, he gets this passage to Caesarea, but he's able to be escorted by soldiers. In the chapter in 23, it talks about the group that escorts him. It says Paul gets a horse, that there are soldiers, footmen who follow, there are men on horses, pikemen. There are all of these soldiers who protect Paul on his way to Caesarea, and he is able to escape these 40 people who have claimed that they will not eat and they will not drink until he is killed. And as he escapes these people, he ends up in Caesarea, where he's on trial between these three men, Felix, Festus, and King Agrippa. And a couple of things happen during this. When he talks to Felix, he's able to respond to some rumors. When he talks to Festus, he's able to use this time to appeal to Caesar. And as he talks to King Agrippa, he's able to give a testimony. And we're going to break down some of these trials that he has. Well, see, when Paul is before Felix, he takes this time and he actually responds to some of the rumors, some of the things he's accused of. In chapter 24, verse 5, it says this. It says, "We have found this man to be a troublemaker, stirring up riots among the Jews all over the world. He is the ringleader of the Nazarene sect, and he even tried to desecrate the temple, so we seized him. By examining him yourself, you will be able to learn the truth about all these charges we are bringing against him." You know, as I read this, I think a lot about how Christians are talked about today. The last time I got to preach, I got to talk about something that I'm passionate about. Is I have met people who have come to Christ and have fallen away through bad circumstances, some that have happened because of the American church. And I don't say that as in legacy, but I talk about there are people in this world who have misrepresented God. When I talk to students, one of the groups that gets brought up heavily because of their protests and the way that they picket and the way that they protest are the Westboro Baptist Church, a group of people who in the past have been scrutinized for their misrepresentation of God and how they seem to just miss the idea of love. And those people who are misrepresenting God, as Christians, we deal with that scrutiny that they receive. There are times where Christian can put sour tastes in mouths because of those people. And so Paul is kind of taking a moment and he addresses some of these things that are being talked about. He addresses some of these rumors because as there are people who have lied about the life of Paul, he is taking the time to say, if there is something that truly I have done wrong that deserves that death, then I will not refuse that. But instead, he takes this time to say, I believe that I have been misinterpreted. I believe that there's been a miscommunication. And through these other interactions, we get to see more of how Paul's strength in his faith really shines in all of these interactions. So against Felix, he gets to talk and respond to these rumors. Now, I'm going to briefly talk about Festus because as he talks to Festus, that he tells Festus that I am a Roman and that I appeal to Caesar, that I want to go to Rome to be tried. And as a Roman, he is granted this right. And right before he talks to King Agrippa, an interaction that I'm really excited about, Festus gets a little bit of a talk with Agrippa and kind of gets to give Agrippa a little bit of a preview, saying, this is the guy that you're going to talk to. Be ready. This is what he's been tried for, and this is a little bit about my interaction with him. So that brings us to chapter 26, this interaction with Agrippa. And Paul uses this interaction, he's not talking to just Agrippa, but talking to a council, that Paul uses this time before he responds to his rumors, the next time he appeals to Caesar, and now he gives his testimony. Among this council, he tells them of the time that he could not believe in Jesus, and he could not stand for what Jesus said, and he persecuted Christians himself, and he came on this road, and he was blinded, and the Lord spoke to him, and how he had an overwhelming understanding, an overwhelming feeling that he knew Jesus was real, that he knew that the Spirit was real, and that he could receive it, and that powerful, amazing things are going to happen with Jesus and the church and all of the Christians yet to come. And there's a interesting little interaction right as he begins to part away from Agrippa, where Agrippa asks him, in this short time, do you truly believe that you can convince me about Jesus? And Paul has a great thing that he says, a great response, where he says, I don't know, and I might not be able to, but what I do know is that I'm praying for you. I'm praying for your family. I'm praying for this room, and I'm praying for all of those in this room that at one point in your life that you see who Jesus is. And it's a prayer that I want to encourage you to pray over the people that you know. Pray for the people, not that you are the one that is able to reveal Christ to them. You are always able to be a conduct where you're able to tell people and be a great example of Jesus. But pray for these people as Paul prayed for this council, that they are able just at one point in their life to see who Jesus is. That at some point in their life they can understand the love of Jesus, who Jesus is, and what this Spirit is that takes over all of these people who call themselves Christians. Thank you so much. I cannot wait to wrap up in the next coming weeks these chapters in Acts, which have been incredible to talk to you about. It's been incredible to have these conversations with, and I can't wait to see you Sunday.